and he wants to summon.
Put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I really mean it. You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Look,
I literally just started treating Jack out because he ended the stream. I was like, bro, we were supposed to capitalize on people looking that shit up and seeing there was a live stream. Now people are going to get halfway through and see it ends. They're going to be mad.
Your bill that are there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more a hell of a lot like $8 and 30-some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it.
I'm going to take his controls away.
I'm saving American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home, that's why the banks are so mad.
Yeah, I can edit the two vids together, but the point was that it would the people would capitalize on clicking the VOD. Duh.
My administration proposed rules to make cable,
now I have to do work.
Utilities and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front, so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What are you against? 100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read. I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
She helped him out there. He was doing a vocal flub, and she gave him an opportunity to actually pause and fix it.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by, if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 months, 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and go.
I know,
that
right?
way,
It's so
knowing that
funny.
they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respect.
He literally was like,
to
"You
suggest
killed
my
Lincoln
friend-
Riley."
My Republican friends owe it to the American people. Get this bill done. We need to act now.
Remember when I covered Lincoln Riley and I said, just wait, this is going to be a narrative from the Republicans, this specific woman. Now they're tokenizing her murder here.
And if my predecessor is watching, instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together. But that's what he apparently here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not.
I will not. He should have said, I won't
Separate
quote Hitler
families.
and say they're poisoning the blood of our country. He's really falling apart, but he's saving it because they give him breaks from clapping.
Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration
Yeah,
system. Take a
exactly.
look at
Shut
it. It
up.
has
You're
all
letting
these
him
and
get away
more.
with this floundering.
Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans.
He needs to
We're
say
the
that
only
Trump
nation in the
only
world with a
stopped
heart and
legal
soul that
immigration
draws
and exploded
from old and
illegal
new.
immigration. He did the
Home to
opposite of
Native
what we should be
Americans, whose
doing.
ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of every place, from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans.
There's the guy with the cane.
Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border.
Look at Mike trying so hard to be like, yeah, right. Roll his eyes, shake his head. So performative, bro. Acting like he doesn't want to do it when you're the one who fucked it up.
59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
Hey, he's got a clap. Ha 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 ha.
Tonight, our other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the
She
voice of
just sat
Selma,
down.
the daughter of gospel singers and preachers. She sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hype beast.
But 59 years later, their forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering.
Yeah, take money out of politics.
John Lewis was a great friend to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And stop Stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong. Instead of erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act.
Now, see the banning books thing that he just said? That's what they're going to ultra focus on and say that he's pro-pedophile now.
Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage, because every worker has a right to a decent living more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs, like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade. To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. The year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up.
Who's yelling?
The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted against.
What was he even yelling?
We made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years. But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence intervention. Give communities the tools to crack down on gun crime, retail crime.
I think he yelled, "You want to defund police," when Republicans literally just voted to do that.
Executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record. Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
Oh, Johnson had to clap because it's women's violence. He can't be seen knowing that.
With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families. We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, that the Vice President is leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile,
this lady next to her is so sick of standing up.
Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president.
He banned bump stock.
After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop
Stop
it,
it.
stop it.
Stop it now.
I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Not going to happen.
Pass universal background checks. None of this. None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East. I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people
I would have left that
since
part
the Holocaust. And 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also we will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined.
Thank you. That's what's
More
up.
than 30,000 Palestinians have been
Good.
killed.
See that when he was
Most
mentioning
of
the
whom
Israeli numbers, I was
are
like,
not Hamas.
mention the Palestinian numbers.
Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to establish an
sold them
immediate
more
ceasefire
weapons,
that will
though.
last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring, something more enduring. The United States has been leading the international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day. And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't
They
caught in
won't.
the
What are you going to do
crossfire.
about it? Blinken looks so
announcing
tired,
that-
bro. Blinken is going to retire for sure after this.
The leadership.
It's like Condoleezza Rice. She had such a huge career
Humanitarian
in front of her,
assistance
but then
cannot be a secondary
she wasn't
consideration
planning on being the
bargaining
fucking
chip.
secretary when
Protecting and saving
9/11
innocent lives
happened, so
has
she
to be a
retired
priority.
so
As we
quick.
look to the future, the only real solution to the situation
Stop sending bombs.
is a
That's a good
two-state
sign
solution
too.
over time. And I say this, As a lifelong supporter of Israel, my
Cringe.
entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here.
Clinton.
I'm the only
Oh,
American
anyone
president
here?
of
Okay.
Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees that Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I build a coalition of more than
Well, they'll do that with the
countries
dock as well.
defend
That's the whole
international
point. He's
shipping
literally telling
and freedom
Israel,
of navigation in the
we're
Red Sea.
circumventing you.
I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel.
What he should say, he shouldn't have brought up the Houthis. What he should say is when Americans were killed at Tower 22, we had bombers take off from Texas.
For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise
No, it's not.
and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. We're standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands.
Mhm.
I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used
COVID technically
in
was a
China,
decline, so
not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. There's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril. Ban AI voice impersonations and more. And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. The song Support and Help with Dennis and the VA. I signed the PACT
back to
Act.
live, I guess.
One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H. And remind us that we can do big things, like end cancer as we know it, and we will. Let me close with this. I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future.
Mega Republicans say
My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution. That's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm, became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president, or our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president.
The first women vice president. What I'm saying is, I am Martin Luther King.
I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal. It deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic.
He's killing it again.
I'm optimistic, Nancy.
Well, so I think that's the best performance he's done of that yet, because as I've said many times, the big thing that they wanted to do is say it's wisdom. You know, it's not age, it's wisdom. And I think that was probably his best presentation of that concept so far.
My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas.
Hell yeah, that's a good line.
Revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away.
Yeah, I think last year was still better, especially with Marjorie Taylor Greene screeching like a baboon.
Where the middle class finally has a fair shot, and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
1 hour, 7 minutes long. President Biden speaking before a joint session of Congress, shaking the vice president's hand there. Speaker Mike Johnson's hand as well. There was a lot at stake going into this evening. This is probably the largest, if not one of the largest audiences President Biden will have before the election come November. Came right out of the gate. Looking at Republicans in that room in particular when talking about Vladimir Putin, saying we must help Ukraine, we must fund Ukraine. Putin is on the march. Talked about his predecessor in comments that the former president, Donald Trump, that didn't use his name.
Opening with Ukraine was pretty
Putin
sick.
in recent days.
Basically saying that Putin is
We'll get to
Hitler.
what Trump said about Putin in just a moment here. The president telling the American people in that chamber, the American people, that history is watching. He talked about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, what's followed, the IVF debate in this country. So you can see him begin to leave the chamber here. And he looked right at the Supreme Court justices. He spoke of their decision that said women have electoral power, and he essentially said you're about to see it.
Did
come
Biden
November.
tell us
And on
opinion on
immigration,
Bosch?
which
No.
is
I
certainly
believe
one of
after
the
this
top
they're going
issues,
to
if not
show
the top
Trump's
issue as we
response
head
to
into
this.
November.
So we'll see if
The
that
president,
happens.
again, squarely looking at Republicans in that room, saying we must act on that bipartisan bill out of the Senate from both Republicans, conservative Republicans, and Democrats. Senator Langford looking on. A cutaway of him from Oklahoma, Senator Langford nodding yes. President Biden arguing we could adjudicate asylum seekers
The
in
silence
6
is
months
deafening.
instead of 6 years with this bill, listing all the other things that come with it too, saying we can fight about the border or we can fix it. We should fix it now. Our chief White House correspondent,
Let's
Mary
see.
Bruce, Senator Bernie
Oh,
Sanders.
Bernie's got his
shaking
mask
the
off
president's
now.
hand. We know, as I mentioned earlier, Senator Sanders, one of the many offering advice.
Biden
days
would
leading up to
shower
the
with
speech.
Bosch.
I'm curious what you're hearing from your sources. Did he do what they wanted him to do?
I can tell you the White House is very happy right now. I bet there are a lot of high fives going on right now. They knew the challenges going into this. The president well aware of the criticism of his campaign, the pressure on him to perform.
A lot of
tonight.
high
The White
fives
House feels
going
that
on.
he nailed this, that he put his critics, on their heels at every turn here. I think the overarching message coming out of this speech was really game on. I mean, it is clear from this speech that the general election is now on. And for months, the president has been criticized for not going hard enough
he's the guy with the Ukraine
against Donald
flag.
Trump. There really was a sense tonight that he was ripping the Band-Aid off, that he was letting loose, he was letting out a lot of that frustration. It certainly didn't take him long to tear into Trump on everything from NATO to abortion. He assailed the Trump tax cuts. He skewered him on immigration. And the tone of it was just so classic Biden, right? It wasn't polished, lofty
Jasmine
rhetoric.
Crockett,
it was
though.
folksy.
She's
it was
not cool
personal.
enough
He was
to get
funny
screen
at times.
time, I
And
guess.
David, he repeatedly put
Maybe she wasn't
Republicans
there.
on notice. He sparred with them in the room in a way I don't think we've ever seen before at a State of the Union. I mean, at one point, poking them on the immigration bill, he said, "You don't like that bill, huh? The one that you guys wanted, the one that your party negotiated?" He asked them point blankly, what are you against? This felt more like a raucous, rowdy campaign speech than a State of the Union. And I think the big question and challenge going forward is, can the president bring this fire to the trail? Will this Joe Biden show up at those campaign events all the way to November?
Yeah, prodding Republicans, asking them, what in this bill don't you like? Tell me what you don't want, that they've laid out with the help of Senator Langford, who was right in that audience there tonight. John, it was very striking, taking on Donald Trump, but not by name. How many times did he say predecessor tonight?
Hey, look, this was a great night for Joe Biden, and this was much more a campaign speech than a State of the Union address. And you saw that in how he repeatedly took on Donald Trump. By my count, by our count, 16 times did he either say my predecessor, the former president, or other people my age, referring to Donald Trump. Very direct attacks. The most powerful one, the very first one, when he comes out and he first invokes Ronald Reagan, who told the Russians, who told the Soviets, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And then he said, compared to Donald Trump, who tells Putin, do whatever the hell you want. Very pointed, the kind of campaign-style speech you just never have seen in a State of the Union, but I think very effective.
And in fact, what he was talking about is Donald Trump just in recent days,
non-binary,
talking about trying to get people to up
bisexual flag that everyone has is supposed to be bipartisanship,
which has been a long-standing
it's
argument
like the
for Donald
spectrum
Trump,
of red to
and
blue.
one that even President Biden has talked about, making sure everybody pays the fair share. But it was that turn when Donald Trump then said, if they don't do it, well then,
I'd say do whatever the hell you'd want
to Vladimir Putin.
So look, but you have to remember, I think this was a great night for Joe Biden. I don't know if it was a home run, but it certainly was a triple. But one factor to consider here, he's been practicing for this speech. This is home turf. He knew the responses. The Republicans are very predictable. This audience is a very predictable audience. He knew the taunts that were going to come, and he knew that what he was going to do in response. And the way he directly took on Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, there's no question about that. He knew that was
coming. Calm down. Don't come in your pants. I want to know who's this bug-eyed lady I keep seeing
in real time.
Who's this lady over here to the left?
That's the caution.
It will not be.
It will not be so trivial. But this was a very big night for Biden.
No question about that. Lindsay Davis also with us here at the desk. And Lindsay, that moment, very rare for a president to look right at members of the Supreme Court sitting before them. But he did, and he talked about the overturning.
She's very
of Roe v.
nervous
Wade. He
about
urged
looking
Congress,
directly into the
let's
camera and
codify
keeps
Roe v.
doing it
Wade.
and then looks
Obviously,
away.
that's not going to happen. But he mentioned that in their decision on Roe v. Wade, that they talked about the power women have, the electoral power they have, and then he ran with it.
So significant in that moment for him to look at the justices directly in the room and talk about that. And specifically, he said, look, the power of women, that when reproductive freedom was on the ballot, we won in 2022, 2023, and we will win again in 2024. And it's important to note that abortion may be on the ballot in as many as 11 states, including the battleground states of Arizona and Nevada. And so potentially that could determine the election, right? If that really brings people out in those two particular states. But I do want to add, though, David, I think that even beyond some of these big ticket items of abortion or immigration or economy, in many cases, this was about the elephant in the room, if you will, about his age. And those people who said that they voted for Biden the last time around, 61% of them, according to the New York Times, who said that they thought that he was too old to be an effective president. And it seemed he really ate his Wheaties today, right? I mean, he had that fire in the belly.
Oh, my God.
Had, the quick
it's drugs,
zingers,
lady.
And he addressed, for many accounts, directly head on, the issue of his age, saying it's not about how old we are, it's about how old our ideas are.
No question about that, Lindsay. Taking on the issue of age and saving it really till the very end of the speech, saying, you know, I know I may not look like it, but I've been around for a while, using a little humor.
Yeah, we've heard that line.
I want to get reaction from Donna Brazile, former head of the DNC, of course, an advisor to Democrats along the way, and this administration as well. I'm so curious, Donna, what your advice was them leading up to tonight, and did he deliver in your eyes?
I mean, look, he had to pour some Tabasco in his speech, and I think he delivered it very well. It was
my
spicy,
God, they're
it was
so
juicy.
cringe.
It was another masterclass.
No
in how do
katana.
you defend your
No
values? How
katana.
do you
Okay,
tell
I
the
won't
American
use the
people,
katana.
because of you, we're stronger. Because of you, we're fighting harder.
Who's
It
this
was
lady? She's
quintessential
so
Joe
weird.
Biden.
Why does she always?
Politics
Why is
is
she
in his
eyeballing
blood
me
and
like
his
that?
DNA, and tonight we saw why he was elected president.
Let me ask you, Donna, for those at home who might ask, why not a performance like this in other moments along the way? Where did this come from tonight? What in particular about this?
Caucus there.
He was speaking to the American people, and also he was speaking truth to power, looking at the Supreme Court. He said every last word I would have said to John Roberts if I had the opportunity. So tonight, women and
John,
and
you're
of course,
diabetic.
men who love us and support us
No, I'm not.
understand that Joe Biden is going to fight for women. He's going to fight for our reproductive health. What I loved about the president tonight
She's
is
the
he
one
got
that
up and the
gave
first
Hillary
thing
the
he said
debate
to
questions
Mr.
prior to
Putin
the
was that,
debate.
I see you, and we're going to defend Ukraine.
Is
It was
she?
a great speech, a great night for Joe Biden. But Joe Biden shows up
Why
every
is she
day of
so
his life.
shifty?
Whether he shows
I don't
up
trust her.
in the morning, and by the way, it's oatmeal, not Wheaties. I've had
And
the
she would
pleasure-
know.
I've
Donna
had
would
the
know.
pleasure of having breakfast, and I wanted grits, and he had oatmeal. But
did-
he showed up tonight, and he's going to show up every day. And what you're going to see on the campaign trail is not just the president, the vice president, and everyone else who's going to stand up for democracy and freedom.
Did he kickstart this campaign tonight?
The campaign was already underway. I think tonight he gave us a little gas in our tank.
Reince Priebus, former head of the RNC, former chief of staff to Donald Trump. What was your take on tonight?
Well, it sounded a lot like a DNC speech, like a convention speech, a political speech. I think it was a health and wellness check. I think everyone was right about that.
Oh my God, I hate these people so much.
I think he passed the health and wellness check tonight. Clearly excited, perhaps overcompensating, maybe yelling quite a bit. I think you're going to see a lot of people talking about the screaming and yelling. But I also think he runs a risk of trying to paint a picture that the American people don't buy. This idea that the economy is booming, that the border is secure, and it's only because the Republicans won't pass a bill, and America is dominant on the world stage. And so I think he overplayed that quite a bit. I don't think that's what Americans are feeling out there. But as far as a health and wellness check, yeah, I think he did that tonight.
Let me ask you, Ryan, you're still closely connected to people who are working within the Trump campaign. The national polls as they stand right now, and we're really far out, we all know that, but they are very close. Donald Trump leading in some of the major polls in the last 2 weeks.
Has he not moved, or is she following
again,
him?
a very close race. Is that the sense even inside Trump world?
Yeah,
just how close this is?
Absolutely. I mean, there is no feeling like this is, a blowout. I think people in the Trump operation know that it's going to be close. They know that it's going to come down to 100,000 votes in 5 states. It's all going to be about data, ground game, and turnout, and that's what they know is happening.
Reince Priebus, Donna Brazil, both with us here as we cover this, and we're preparing for the Republican response. We should let you all know at home. We will bring that to you as well with a rising star in the Republican Party. We continue to watch President Biden in that room here tonight. And Martha Raddatz, there were so many questions going into tonight, obviously about age in this country, even from President Biden's supporters. You've traveled the country leading up to the primaries. He is uncontested. I mean, obviously the final candidate dropped out. But even supporters of Biden, when they leave, telling the exit polls that they were concerned about his age as well. Did he assuage those concerns tonight with his performance here?
Well, he certainly was vigorous. It was a campaign speech. It was probably for the Democrats a dream campaign speech because of his energy. I don't know whether he was really screaming Reince, but he was definitely raising the level of his voice. And I think that probably because he often does clear his throat. He does have problems with his voice sometimes. He didn't seem to have a lot of problems tonight.
Are
but
you
I
kidding?
also think this speech was more than just a campaign speech. It was a legacy speech. No matter what happens in November, Joe Biden laid down the hammer tonight about what he believes and what he feels about this country. So I think that Democrats will look at it as that as well. And that's why Joe Biden probably really rose to this moment. He knew not only from a campaign speech how important it was, but for his own legacy, David.
And I suspect, Martha, that we heard the beginning of what will be a major campaign theme here. At the end of the speech,
showed up to
said
get
it's not how
attention.
old
He's
you are,
just getting
it's how
attention,
old your
guys.
ideas are. And he tried to reframe this age debate.
That's exactly right. And I think his campaign people have been saying again and again, and people within the White House, I know there has been some disagreement about how they are handling that age issue. You can't ignore it. He can't ignore it. And in the next few weeks, he may stumble. He may make mistakes, and it'll come back to that age issue again. But for tonight,
wow, these women want to fuck him
so
hard.
many ways.
I want to bring in Terry Moran, who has covered multiple presidencies here in Washington. Terry, you knew the stakes going into tonight. And
that guy behind
it's not
him
hyperbole to talk about the high wire act that President Biden was walking into that chamber to try to perform. Did he deliver?
It sure was a high wire act. And I think the fair thing to say, a lot of Democrats over the past few weeks have been panicking. I'll bet the vast majority of them feel better tonight because the president did hit hard. You know, you can talk about his performance all you want, but I think more importantly, what he did, this was the old time religion, the middle class, working class, labor, Democrat agenda. And he reached for it again and again and again, both in terms of the values, that line, you can't love your country only when you win. The best line of the speech. Fair play and decency are bedrock values of the middle class. No matter who people voted for, the notion that you don't love your country if you guys lose, it doesn't sit well with them. And then right across that economic agenda, hitting again and again and again, middle class values.
With just a few seconds left in this segment, Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent, President Biden making it very clear tonight, defending democracy will be a key theme right into November.
Absolutely. He went very hard on the issue of January 6th in terms of the attack on the Capitol. He wanted to make sure that everyone in the public was reminded of that, pointing to Congress to let them know that they were scurrying for their lives, pointing that out as well, David. Also, it struck me that this was a president, particularly in regards to the House Republicans who have been trying to impeach him.
Or something
he really
with Bernie
wanted
Sanders.
to take them on head on and let them know he really didn't
and he got
care
Bernie
that much about
Sanders
how
to
they
say
felt
like
about what
his
he was saying,
proposals
David.
are on
President
fleek.
Biden with a smile on his face there as he leaves the chamber. And when we come back here, the Republican response tonight from a rising star in the Republican Party, as I mentioned, Alabama Senator Katie Britt. She's a mother of two. She's just 42 years old, the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the Senate. We're going to go to break here for just a moment because she's getting ready to now speak to the American people. The Republican response to President Biden right after the break. Don't go away. ABC News live coverage of the State of the Union.
Moments from now, she is a rising star in the Republican Party.
Miss Brett. Epic. Look, this was the last. It was when he was still on TV. It was a long time ago, so it was popular then. So if it was this time around, he would have said, "Hey, you have to say you're going to riz the campaign trail." I love when old people use modern slang. That was like part of the joke, is him not explaining to Bernie Sanders what it means. Who's ready for the fascist response to this? I'm just keeping this muted so I know to cut it out later when I forcibly have to edit this because somebody ended stream. The world is on fire and flooding. Taylor Swift. Migrants bad, gas expensive, kids gay. Yeah, but she's the up and coming Republican star. Look at that silly video of a moose. He should have invited Swift. Talk about how she got more people to go out and vote. You should talk about Cindy Sweeney's rack, apparently. Jackie made this post today. It was so good. I have to pull that up real quick. Isn't that great? Wokeness is dead. Nancy Pelosi's big ass rack. That's what's up. Dog died, fish died, mom died, plane crashed, train derailed, kids gay. Here we go. He's
having a bit of an after-hours party, Martha
talking.
Raddatz. Clearly enjoying the moment in that chamber. We have talked often. He spoke of it tonight, about the length of his career, how many years he spent up on that hill even before he was vice president. Talked about the history of being vice president to the first black president and now having the first woman vice president behind him. That was also a moment toward the end of the speech. Mary Brewster, you're learning more from the White House tonight and from the Biden campaign about what they believe he had to do tonight and whether he delivered.
They certainly do think he delivered. Look, they were well aware of how pivotal and important this moment was. And they do think that he absolutely nailed it. I mean, they feel that he outlined the stakes in this election, that he noted his accomplishments, but also made very clear the stark choice before voters.
And Rachel Scott, just a few seconds there in the chamber, the mood?
Well, Republicans have headed for the exits, and this is typical Joe Biden. You see him shaking hands with Democrats, members of the military that have stuck around here. The president going toe-to-toe with many Republicans here, as you have all noted, on immigration, on Medicare, Social Security as well. Divisions on full display, but you heard those chants of 4 more years from Democrats, a reminder of the stakes.
Rachel Scott in the chamber. Rachel, thank you. Senator Katie Britt.
Selfie culture's got to go.
Deliver the Republican response. She is a mother of 2. She'll be speaking from Montgomery, Alabama. You see the live picture right now coming up before you.
She's a mother of 2? Who cares?
Good evening, America. My name is Katie Britt, and I have the honor of serving the people of the great state of Alabama
Don't
in
trust
the
her.
United States Senate.
Alabama?
However, that's not the job that matters most. I am a proud wife and mom of
Okay,
2
bye.
school-aged kids.
Okay,
My
your
daughter
job
Bennett
for the American
and my
people
son Ridgway
doesn't matter
are
to
why
you.
I
Okay,
ran
good
for
to
the
know.
Senate.
Definitely not voting for you if
I'm
I could.
worried about their future and the future of children in every corner of
They're
our
going to be
nation.
gay soon.
And that's why I invited you into our home tonight. Like so many families across America, my husband Wesley and I just watched President Biden's State of the Union address from our living room.
Okay.
And what we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive.
Ooh.
One thing was quite clear, though. President
somebody
Biden
didn't get a
doesn't
drink
get
of
it.
water before talking?
He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off.
Bro,
Our
you're
communities
from
are
Alabama,
less
where they
safe,
just
and
banned in
our
vitro
country is
fertilization.
less
You have no
secure.
room to talk about family.
I just wish he understood what real families are facing around kitchen tables just like this one. You know, this is where our family has tough
That's a counter.
conversations. It's where we make hard
Oh, you're
decisions.
sitting at a table. Is
It's
that your
where
table?
we share the good,
You're
the
literally
bad,
sitting
and
at your
the
kitchen
ugly
table?
of our days. It's
How
where we laugh
performative.
together. And it's where we hold each other's hands and pray for God's guidance.
Oh,
And
fuck
many
off.
nights, to be honest, it's where Wesley
God
and I
hates you
worry.
because of how you're lying and being
I know we're not
performative right
alone.
now.
And so tonight, the American family needs to have a
This is
tough
kayfabe.
conversation. Because the truth
It's
is,
true.
we're all worried about the future of our nation. The country we know and love seems to be slipping away, and it feels like the next generation will have
You know
fewer
she's a bad wife
opportunities and
because
less
all she does
freedoms
is
than we
gaslight
did.
her husband.
I worry my own children may not even get a shot at living their American dreams.
No, you don't.
My American dream allowed me, the daughter of two small business owners from rural Enterprise, Alabama, to be elected to the United States Senate at the age of 40. Growing up, sweeping the floor at my dad's hardware store and cleaning the bathroom at my mom's dance
She looks
studio,
good for 40.
I never could have imagined what my story would entail.
Now
To
I'm here
think
lying to
about
all
what
of
the American
you.
dream can do across to just one generation.
That's the only that
in
like the
just
main
one
the main thing
lifetime.
that pulls me in
It's
with
truly
Biden
breathtaking.
is
But
how honest he
right
is. I'm not
now,
saying he doesn't lie,
the
of course,
American
because
dream
he's a
has turned
politician.
into a
But
nightmare
you catch him where he'll just
for
decide to
so
tell the truth,
many
and then they'll
families.
immediately be like, "He did not
The
say
true
that. You did not hear the words that
unvarnished
came out of
state
his
Our
mouth."
union begins and ends with this. Our
Who's this broad?
families
This is the
are
official
hurting.
Republican Party response.
Our
The official
country
Republican
can do
Dominionist Party
better.
response was to choose this lady
And you don't
from
have
the
to look any
state
further
who just banned IVF
at our southern
to give the
border
speech about
yet.
this.
President Biden inherited the most secure border of all time.
Again, more
But minutes
illegal
after
immigrants
taking
under Trump.
office,
It's just a
He
fact.
suspended all deportations. He halted construction of the border wall.
No, he didn't.
And
He built more than
announced
Trump.
a plan to give amnesty to millions. We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis. He invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days.
Uh-huh.
When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas.
You're from
That's where I
Alabama.
spoke to a woman who shared her story.
Does this lady know that New York
She
gets
had
way more
been
immigration than
sex-trafficked
Texas?
by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
California and New York,
She
way
told
more
me
immigration
not
than
just that
Texas.
she was raped every day, but how many times
Oh,
a
here we
day
go.
she was raped. The cartels put her on a mattress in a shoebox of a room.
What?
And
This
they
is
sent
weird.
men through that door
They're the fucking
over and
fetish
over again
material that these people
for
always want to be
hours
doing.
and hours on end. We wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of
Source
America.
where this
and
happened,
it is
please.
past time, in my opinion, that we start acting like it. President Biden's border
Chris Kyle was an
policies
American hero.
are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable.
He shot
And the
people during
truth is, it
Hurricane
is
Katrina.
almost entirely preventable. From fentanyl poisonings to horrific murders,
I hope your children take fentanyl.
there are empty chairs tonight at kitchen tables
Uh-huh.
just like this one because of President Biden's senseless border policies.
Oh my God, bro.
Just think about Laken Riley. In my
Stop.
neighboring state of Georgia.
I told y'all this was going to happen.
Beautiful 22-year-old nursing student.
She's
went
the new
out on a
Ashley
jog one
Babbitt.
morning.
This is their token woman
But
now.
she never got the opportunity to return home. She was brutally murdered by one of the millions of illegal border crossers President Biden chose to release into our homeland. Y'all, as a mom,
Porno acting.
I can't quit thinking about this.
Yeah,
I mean, this could have
and
been
she's like,
my
and now
daughter.
I'm gonna get tied to the
This could have
mattress.
been
Like, what is
yours.
happening?
And tonight, President Biden finally said her name. But he refused to take responsibility for his own actions. Mr. President, enough is enough. Innocent Americans are dying, and you only have yourself to blame.
This is better. This is the
Fulfill
best
your
part.
oath of office. Reverse your policies. End this crisis and stop
You literally voted
the
to end those
suffering.
policies. You could have. You literally. It's literally not
Sadly,
him. You voted. You
We
voted to
know
keep
that
that border
President
open,
Biden's
lady.
failures don't stop there. His reckless spending dug our economy into a hole and
No, it
sent
didn't.
the cost of living through the roof.
No, the cost of
We
living is
have
always
the worst
rising. That's how
inflation
inflation
in
works.
40 years.
Currency.
And the
See, honey,
highest
listen.
credit card debt
Currency,
in
it
our
has to
nation's
devalue over time to
history.
encourage
Let that
spending to
sink
keep
in.
the economy flowing. It's basic
Hardworking
economics.
families are struggling to make ends
That's
meet
why crypto doesn't work.
today. And with soaring mortgage rates and sky-high childcare costs, they're also struggling to how to plan for tomorrow. The American people are scraping by while President Biden proudly proclaims that
I'll let you out after this,
Bidenomics
Conchilla.
is working. Goodness, y'all, bless his heart. We know better.
Uh-huh.
I'll never forget stopping at a gas station in Chilton County one evening.
This
The
didn't
gentleman
happen.
working the counter told me that after retiring, he had to pick up a job in his 70s so that he didn't have to choose between going hungry or going without his medication.
Wow.
He said,
You mean so Biden lowering medication would help this guy?
I
Okay.
worked hard. I
Great,
saved.
great,
I was
great
responsible.
anecdotal to make up.
He's
You
not
fucked up
alone.
there for sure.
I hear similar concerns from fellow parents, whether I am walking with my friends or whether I'm
I gotta
at my
pull up
kids'
stuff
games.
of her in Congress to see her talking.
But let's be honest, it's been a minute since Joe Biden pumped gas, ran a carpool, or even pushed a
Yeah, because
grocery
when
cart.
he's not allowed to.
Meanwhile, the rest of us see our dollar and we know it
You
doesn't go
don't.
as far. We see it every day.
Look at the fucking fruit
And
bowl behind her.
despite what he tells you, our communities are not safer. For
Well,
years,
maybe your
the
party
left
shouldn't have
has
defunded the
coddled
police.
criminals and defunded the police.
That's a
all
green
while
screen. She
letting
probably lives on
repeat
Epstein
offenders
Island.
walk free. The result is tragic, but foreseeable. From our small towns to America's most iconic city streets, life is getting more and more dangerous. And unfortunately, President Biden's weakness isn't just hurting families here at home. He is making us a punchline on the world stage. Look, where I'm from, your
No,
word is
Trump
your
was.
bond. But for 3 years, the president has demonstrated that America's word doesn't mean what it used to.
That's Trump.
From abandoning our allies in his disastrous
That's Trump.
withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Okay. Trump did the Doha talks
desperately
as well.
pushing
That's Trump.
another dangerous deal with Iran.
Okay.
President Biden has failed. We've become a nation in retreat. And the enemies of freedom, they see an opportunity.
You mean like you retreated from ISIS
Putin's
under Trump?
brutal aggression in Europe has put our allies on the brink.
Uh-huh. And
Iran's
who
terrorist
wants to
proxies
leave?
have slaughtered Israeli
And who bombed
Jews
Iran's
and
terrorist
American
proxies so
citizens.
they stopped fighting?
They've targeted commercial shipping, And they've attacked our troops nearly 200 times since
Yeah,
October,
and who stopped them from doing those
killing
attacks?
3 U.S. soldiers and
And then
2
what happened?
Navy SEALs.
And then what
Meanwhile,
happened?
The Chinese Communist Party
But-
is undercutting America's workers. China is buying up our farmland, spying on our military installations, and
what's
spreading
interesting is like
propaganda
you
through
can
the
go
likes of TikTok.
you can go look at our interview with Emma,
see,
who works in
the
Okinawa,
CCP
right?
knows
She talks about how Chinese spies
that
are
if
always
it
outside the base.
conquers
So this
the
narrative of
minds
them
our
buying
next
farmlands, to, like
generation,
you can literally just go spy on the military base.
it
They're not going to
conquers
stop you. That's
America.
like what are they going to do? Tell you have to keep moving and you
what
can't take
does
pictures of a
President
military
Biden
facility?
do? Well, he bans TikTok for government employees, but creates an account for his own campaign. Y'all, you can't make this stuff up. Look,
You
all
can't make
recall
this
when
stuff up.
presidents
He
faced
campaigned on
national
TikTok.
security threats with strength and resolve. That seems like ancient history.
Did she say
Right
something
now,
about Ukraine?
Our commander-in-chief
I missed it.
is not in command. The free world deserves better than a dithering and diminished leader.
Are those the bugs from
America deserves
Helldivers? I don't
leaders
know what
who
those are.
recognize that secure borders, stable prices,
Uh-huh.
safe streets, and a strong defense are actually the
Really, that
cornerstones
she's showing
of a
how she
great
really lays it
nation.
down there.
Just ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 3 years ago?
Considering COVID was 3 years ago, yes, everyone
There's
is better
no
off.
doubt
What a dumbass.
We're at a crossroads, and it doesn't have to be this way. We all feel it.
No.
But here's the good news. We, the people, are still in the driver's seat.
No.
We get to decide whether our future will grow brighter or whether we'll settle for an America in decline.
Okay.
Well, I
Did you
know
hear that
which
swallow?
choice our
Give this
children
woman some
deserve.
water.
And I know the choice the Republican Party is fighting for. We are the party of hard-working parents and families.
You're the party of like
And we
not
want to
enough
give
blinking
you
to me.
and your children the opportunities to thrive. And we want families to grow. It's why we strongly support continued nationwide access to in vitro fertilization. We want to help
You're
loving moms
Alabama.
and dads bring precious life into this
You're
world.
Alabama, lady. They
Wesley and
literally
I
could
believe
not have
there
picked
is no
worse
greater
optics for
lesson
this.
in life than our children. And that's why tonight I want to make a direct appeal to the parents out there, and in particular to my fellow moms, many of whom I know will be up tossing and turning at 2 a.m., wondering how you're going to be
Lady,
in 3
you're as
places
fake as
at
your
once and then somehow still get dinner on the table. First of all, we see you.
Do you still cook dinner?
We hear you.
Weird.
And we stand with you. I know you're frustrated.
Oh my God.
I know you're probably disgusted by most of what you see going on in Washington. And I'll be really honest with you, you're not wrong for feeling that way. Look, I get it. The task in front of us isn't an easy one, but I can promise you one thing.
Another
It
perk about Biden
is
be like
worth
too old to
it.
talk. He
So
has
I
no
am
time to
asking
like
you
try
for
and
the
act.
sake of
You
my
know,
kids
he just
and your
has to get the words
grandkids,
out. He can't be
get
pretending like
into
this.
the arena. Every generation has been called to do hard things.
You're talking about the
American
IVF
greatness
polls?
rests in the fact that we always
Universal mental health
answer
care.
that call. It's who we are.
It's ASMR, bro.
Never forget, we are
The
steeped
swallowing.
in the blood of patriots who overthrew the most powerful
Blood and soil,
empire
bro.
in
She's
the
invoking
world.
blood and soil.
We walk in the footsteps of pioneers who tamed the wild. We now carry forward the same flame of freedom as the liberators of an oppressed Europe. We
You
continue
mean
to
didn't
draw
Biden just
courage
invoke Hitler?
from
Now
those
you're
who
doing that
bent the
too? Are you
moral
sure you
arc
watched the
of
speech,
the
lady?
universe. And when we gaze upon the heavens, never forget that our DNA contains the same ingenuity that put man on the moon.
Uh-huh.
America has been tested before, and every single time we've emerged
I'm not going to join your
unbowed and
MLM lady. Leave me
unbroken.
alone. I bet you that's her
Our
history.
history has been written with the grit of men and women who got knocked down.
No, they didn't.
But we know their stories.
You mean the
because
Confederates?
They did not
Are you
stay
talking
down.
are you talking about the Southern
we
history?
Are here because they stood back up.
The
So now
Confederates?
it's our turn.
No, America
Our
has never been
moment
knocked
to
down,
stand up
sweetie.
and prove ourselves worthy of protecting the American dream. Together, we can reawaken the heroic spirit of a great nation.
Blood and soil shit.
Because America, we don't just have a rendezvous with destiny. We take destiny's hand and we lead it. Our future starts around kitchen tables just like this, with moms and dads just like you. And you are why I believe with every fiber of my being that despite the current state of our union, our best days are still ahead. May God bless you. And may God
Great
continue
Russian is one
to
of the reasons
bless
we won the
these
Revolutionary War.
United States of America.
And there you have it. Senator Katie Britt from Alabama at 42 years old, the youngest Republican elected to the Senate, giving the Republican response tonight to President Biden's State of the Union address from her kitchen there in Alabama. And I want to get right over to John Carl before we say goodnight here, because we have first reaction in from former President Trump to President Biden's speech tonight.
May not surprise you, but Donald Trump didn't like the speech. He reacted by calling it the angriest, least compassionate, and worst State of the Union speech ever made.
Okay, the race is underway, isn't it? John Carl, Mary Bruce, Lindsay Davis, Martha Raddatz, you guys make this so easy up here. And Donna Brazil, Reince Priebus, always great to have your
probably has this, I was thinking, like, when she was talking about cooking, I was like, you don't
We leave you tonight with this very telling image from just moments ago in the chamber. President Biden, almost the last person to leave that chamber tonight. The lights appear to have been turned off in the chamber. People still asking for selfies. After having given
he's
the
so
State of the Union tonight.
charismatic,
Our
just
coverage
like
continues.
Bashar
ABC News
al-Assad.
Live, abcnews.com. Of course, Good Morning America first thing in the morning. And as the president leaves, so do we. Your local news is next for many of you. I'm David Muir. I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Great stream, folks. Thanks for coming out. Now I have to go edit both of them together. Bye-bye. Oh, hang on. I haven't even fixed this thing yet.
And you got a lot of them. I love dogs. You love dogs.